Good morning to everyone at today's public hearing of the Vetting Commission established under Law Number 65 of the year 2023 on the external evaluation of judges and candidates for judges of the Supreme Court of Justice. I'm Scott Bales, the chair of the commission, and I declare this session open. The hearing is being conducted under Law Number 65 and under the Commission's Rules of Organization and Functioning as part of the evaluation process. The subject of today's hearing is Sergiu Stratan, judge of the Chișinău Court, the Buiucani Office. Judge Stratan, welcome. And I apologize if I stumble over your name. Romanian is far from my native language, but I'll try the best that I can. I'm joined by the 8 other members of our commission. To my left or to your right is Vice Chair Andre Bevel, and further down that side of the dais are commission members Lavle Perling, William Brower, and Yuri Gatskin. To my right or to your left are commission members Marcel van de Vettering, Julian Russo, Gerrit Sprenger, and Lillian Ansu. You will see also present with us today, there's a photographer who will take pictures just at the beginning of the hearing. And you may also see here in the room members of the public and members of the Commission's Secretariat. The hearing will be conducted with interpretation between Romanian and English. To allow for accurate interpretation, I ask everyone to speak clearly and slowly. Only one person should speak at a time. The proceedings are being recorded. The recordings of the public hearings generally will be available online at the Commission's website, www.vettingmd.eu, within 3 days after the hearing. During the hearing, one or more members of the Commission may ask you questions. We ask that you answer them truthfully and completely. Your answers are important to the Commission in verifying your financial and ethical integrity. At the end of the hearing, you will be given an opportunity to make a brief closing statement. In posing questions, we will consider your privacy and, where required and possible, the privacy of your family members and close persons. We will leave out unnecessary details relating to such things as ID numbers, bank account numbers, real estate addresses, and so forth. For the protection of privacy, we ask you to do the same. I will start by briefly reviewing the evaluation process for Judge Stratan. The Commission initiated its evaluation on the 19th of May 2025 by notifying the judge by email and asking him to complete and return an ethics questionnaire and the declarations required by Law Number 65. Judge Stratan completed the declarations and questionnaire on the 25th of May 2025. As part of evaluating a subject's ethical and financial integrity, the Commission also obtains information from many other sources, such as the National Integrity Authority, the State Fiscal Service, the General Inspectorate of the Border Police, other public institutions, financial institutions, and open sources. The Commission assesses the information it obtains for its relevance and reliability. Between the 19th of July and the 16th of September this year, the Commission asked Judge Stratan to provide additional information to clarify certain matters during 2 rounds of questions. He responded on time and provided answers and documents. On the 23rd of October 2025, we notified Judge Stratan that the Commission had identified some areas of doubt about his compliance with the ethical and financial criteria and invited him to attend a hearing on the 3rd of November 2025. Judge Stratan, do you wish to make any corrections or additions to the answers you've provided to the Commission's requests for information?
Good morning. Just, as what you said was right, and I have nothing to add.
And are the answers to the ethics questionnaire and the declarations that you returned to the Commission on the 19th of May 2025, are they still accurate as of today? Has anything changed?
They are still accurate and nothing has changed so far.
Thank you. Members of the commission will now ask some additional questions. We'll try to keep our questions short and to the point. We ask that your answers be short and to the point as well. And I believe Commission Member Willem Brouwer will begin the questions this morning.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning to you. Mr. Stratan, I want to discuss with you about 3 items. The apartment on the Christo Botev Street, the Eugene Kokas Street, and again the Christo Botev Street in another context. And we had a very small issue about road tax, but you have read that in the hearing notice. According to the information the Commission has, you registered a property title on the Christo Botev Street on the 1st of August 2017. That's correct?
Da, este corect.
Yes, that is correct.
And it was in what is called an unfinished in white box condition. Can you explain me what is meant for this apartment with this white box condition?
Da, atunci când se construiesc
Well, that is when they're building new apartment blocks. Most of the time, the apartments are being given to the owners in this unfinished condition. So the developer does that. So that's the term that we use here, the white wall or the white box condition. What does this mean? First of all, it means the walls. Well, they have plaster on them only, and the floor, they just do, is just, and then unfinished, it is not completely finished, doesn't have flooring, and the heating system is installed, there is sewerage system as well, but when the owner is given the keys to the apartment, then they start doing all the inside works, or we call them finishing works, the interior works required for an apartment.
And what kind of works have you done to finalize it?
Well, as I've explained also in the first round of questions, for this apartment, we've started these works on the 1st of August, but on the 27th of July 2017 is when I was given the keys to the apartment and my ownership rights were thus registered, and on the 1st of August I started these indoors work, the inside work, the interior works. So speaking about these renovation works, I have to say that the size was 41 square meters of the apartment. That's what I have to start with. There was a bedroom, a kitchen, a bathroom, and a hallway. So practically that's everything that there was in these 41 square meters. As for the works, they were that on the white walls, they had to be finished. We've added some construction materials to straighten them, to level them up, and to get them ready for painting. Then the walls were painted. And then we put the tiles in the bathroom, in the hallway, and I mean the flooring tiles, and then in the bedroom, laminated. Some lamination works, like laminate flooring, was installed. That was for the apartment. Now, in different apartments, people can do different sort of finishings. I mean, you can have an entire team of designers to put together a plan for the remodeling, or they can take down some walls or build up some new walls, for instance. You can also perform some changes on the sewerage system, on the electricity inside, for instance, the cables. You can replace the cables for the electricity network or the warm flooring, or I mean, we didn't do this for the apartment though.
Okay, that is my question. What did you do with the apartment? Not what was possible, but what did you do? What I understood is you made a laminate floor and you decorated it, but did you do everything yourself?
Exact. Exact. Eu sunt
That is
persoană
correct.
din sat. Sunt de prins cu lucrările.
I was
În sat,
raised in a
majoritatea
village. I'm
lucrărilor se
used
fac
to
de
doing such works.
persoanele care
In
locuiesc
villages,
acolo.
usually people do these sort of
Laminatul,
works
spui, le-am spus că am
on
pus
their own. For
laminatul,
instance, the
spui,
laminate
laminatul, e foarte
flooring. I mean,
simplu.
that's very simple to do.
Baghetele, splintele, iarăși,
And as for the
Dacă știi cum
floor
să le pui,
moldings or
nu
these
vreo de câteva ore.
floor trims, if you know how to
Într-o
do it,
odaie
it takes you just a few hours to get things in the right place.
Just from my understanding, this apartment was 41 square meter, 41.3 or something. Was that the complete apartment or only the living room?
41 de metri pătrați.
41 square
Pătrați
meters.
includea tot
That is the
apartamentul, cu
entire
baie, coridor,
apartment,
cu
bathroom, hallway, kitchen included, and the bedroom.
I read from your answers that your father helped you with this.
Da, exact.
That is correct.
Has he some special skills? Is he a carpenter or?
Tatăl meu nu este lemnar.
No, he's
nu
not a
este
carpenter,
constructor,
he's not
dar
in
are
constructions,
abilitățile
but he
respective.
does
Dacă
have
le-am
the
spus
skills
în
to do
runda
this.
de întrebări
But
că
in
tatăl m-a
the
ajutat,
rounds,
am
the
pus
Q&A
accentul pe
rounds, I've
persoană
rather
din satul
put more
Viceni,
emphasis
meșter
on
de
a
profesie,
person
care
from
tatăl
a
l-a
neighboring
identificat
village.
și a participat la repararea
He
apartamentului.
is
Tata, în
doing
esență,
these
s-a
works
ocupat mai
as a
mult cu
profession, and he participated in that. My father
materialelor de
mostly focused on
construcție, ducerea la
buying
apartament
construction
și toate
materials, carrying them
chestiunea
over to the
aceasta
apartment.
de logistică,
So
să
he
spunem
was
așa.
rather in charge of
El,
logistics.
nemijlocit să
He,
vopsească pereții sau să
when it
îndrepte,
comes to
nu a
painting the
participat
walls
la
or
lucrul respectiv. Dar
straightening them up, he
meșterul
did not
care l-a adus
participate in
tata,
that.
care l-a
But that
identificat în
professional that my
satul
father
Viceni,
has
care
found
spuneam
in a neighboring
în runda de
village
întrebări.
that I mentioned in the first round of questions and answers, that's the person who did the works.
And does this professional have a name?
Da, acest meșter are un nume.
Yes, he does have a
Când
name.
mi-a venit deja
When
invitația la
I
audieri,
was,
am văzut
when I
că au
received the
apărut
invitation to the
dubii
hearings, I
la
noticed there are
respectivă
some
și am vorbit cu
questions,
tata.
doubts about
Haideți să
those
iau
renovation works, and
viziunea
I told my
meșterului
father
respectiv,
that
să
maybe we
prezint
should
în fața
ask for
comisiei
some
că el a
sort of a
participat
statement
la
from that
efectuarea
person and to show it to the
reparării.
commission that he
Persoana
participated in
respectivă
the
este
renovation
decedată
works, but
în momentul
unfortunately
respectiv.
that person has passed away.
I can't remember that you gave a name.
Nu l-am numit.
I did not give a name indeed,
Eu îl știu după poreclă, să spunem
because
așa.
I know him by the
Dar
nickname.
nici n-am întrebat pe tata numele.
And I have
Îl chema
not
Vasile
asked
și
my father
poreclă.
what his name was. I know
Nu
he
știu
was
numele
Vasile
după
and a nickname, but I don't know his surname.
Eu, în orice caz, dacă
Okay.
Either way,
Yes, let me put it differently. This person was a professional?
E-
No?
exact.
precisely, yes. Well, professional, I mean, I don't know if he had certificates, but in the 90s, he participated in building the house that my parents stayed in. So my parents' house, he participated in building it. And throughout his life, he's also put a fence up, and whenever some construction works were required, he would always be invited. So he was quite good at it.
Did you pay him for that?
Eu nu i-am plătit, tata i-a plătit.
I did not, my father did.
Pentru serviciile respective. De aceea,
For those
când am
services.
primit întrebările
That is
din
because,
prima rundă,
and so when
mi-a
I
fost greu
received
să
the
răspund
questions
la
in the first
cheltuielile
round, it was
exact
hard
care
for
au fost
me to
suportate în legătură
establish
cu
what
reparația
expenses specifically were
apartamentului.
incurred in relation to this renovation works for the apartment.
Well, you understand where I'm going to, because what we saw from your answers, from the file we have, that all the work that you have done, only 20,000 lei is traceable, but it must have cost more. Did your father cover those costs?
Exact.
Yes, precisely. I've never stated that those expenses were 6,000 or then 25,000. I've stated that my father participated in the renovation works and that the expenses were to a great extent incurred by him in August for the most part of the works. And then there were some examples that I provided, as in how much he paid for the closet and for the table and chairs when I've initially moved in. But as for the expenses that the Commission has traced on my card, they do not contradict anything of what I stated in my answers to the first round. Actually, they are there to confirm what I've stated, that the apartment, when I had moved into it in mid-September, was not completely finished, and that along the way, more works have continued to be performed.
Thank you. What I understood is that already on half September, I think, you could live in the apartment?
Exact.
That's right. When I had gotten the questions from the Commission, I thought back of when I moved into it back in 2017, because, I mean, it has been a number of years, so I decided to focus and to remember, and I started to look up some documentation. I knew that the contract on gas supply, I had not signed it at that time yet, and I looked it up, and it has been signed in November, in fact. I knew that in the old apartment on the Coca Street, I had an electric stove, because in that particular block, there was no gas supply network at all. So I looked this information up in my documentation, and I found as a benchmark, as a starting point, a receipt from a store. I have it, it's yellow. The date on it is the 15th or the 16th of September 2017. And this receipt contains foodstuffs from a store, grocery store that is in the vicinity of the apartment block where I lived. So I wanted to be very precise in my answer, so that's why I put down 15th of September, mid-September 2017. That's the rationale behind my answer.
On this topic, I don't have questions right now. Are there questions within the commissions?
Do any other members have questions? Yes.
Well, maybe just for the background information, we have seen that you have generated quite a lot of money from relatives, from your father, from your mother, from your brother. What is the profession of your father?
I
will start by saying that currently my father does not work at all. He was a musician, in fact. He was a teacher of music, and he's been singing at wedding ceremonies and has been teaching music for a living. But as I stated in item 16, in the first round of questions, my mother has been working in Italy for quite a long while to be able to provide for us. In 2003, she went to Italy for the first time. I was in the 8th grade, but she returned in 2009 for good. And I provided information on the taxes paid in Italy, her employment contract as well, transfers made, so documentation supporting that. So the income sources of my parents, I have managed to provide documentation for that, although my father doesn't work now anymore because he has health issues.
And
so,
talking about your brother, what we have seen from the files, he has provided quite an amount of money, which we have learned he has earned it abroad. Can you specify this a bit more?
Yes, I provided answers in the first round of questions, and I also provided relevant documentation. For a while, for a few years, he's been working in the United States of America. He's been working as a truck driver, and his income, if I may say it, were close at the time to $500,000 transferred into the country. So I provided documentation supporting that, the bank statements that is, and I've also provided documentation that he gave me twice money for the 2022 apartment by bank transfer. He borrowed that money to me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Commission Member Perlin.
I would like to ask about the cash. As we know, the apartment was paid in cash. It was 650 in May 2015, 300 euros in November 2015, and in November 2016, 3,050 euros, and July 2017, 1,326. Two simple questions. Why I ask about, especially about 2015, because as I understand, it was the year when you became a judge. Is it correct? In August, yeah. Why you decided to pay in cash And whose initiative it was? It was your initiative paying cash, or it was initiative by company?
Eu cred că la momentul
I
respectiv,
think that at that
compania de construcții
moment,
care
the
construia
construction
blocul, cel
company
puțin
who was
colegii mei
building that,
care au
or at
lucrat la
least the
Curtea
colleagues that I've
Constituțională,
worked with at the Constitutional
toți achitau în
Court,
numerar.
they
Deci
have
cei la
all been paid in
contabilitate cu banii,
cash. You would take the money to the
în lei,
accountant
calcula
in Moldovan
deja
lei,
că sumele
and
erau
they would
indicate
make
în
the
euro în
calculations
contract,
because the
la
amounts in the
cursul
contract were in
respectiv.
euro, so they
Deci
would
nu
look
s-a
at the
pus
exchange rate.
problema,
And
la
this
momentul
never
respectiv, să fie achitat
was raised as
cumva
an issue, or it was not even suggested for the
prin transfer
payment
bancar
to be
banii
made
respectivi. Cu
via
atât mai mult
wire
că eu,
transfer.
cum am justificat
All the more
prima
so since
tranșă
I've
care am
already
achitat-o
explained the
tranșurile
first
ulterioare,
installment that I
reiese
paid
că
and the
aveam
other
numerar
one, so
atunci.
I had cash at that time.
Thank you. Commissioner Brower?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We go on with the apartment in Eugen Koka Street. Is it Eugen? Is that well pronounced?
Da, da,
Yes?
da.
Okay.
Yes.
Some things that are not quite clear. This apartment you purchased, or your father purchased it in 2008. You were still a student then? How old were you then? I think 20 years old.
19 ani eram
I was
primul an la
19 years
facultate.
old. I was in my first year at the faculty.
Yeah. Then something strange is happening. There is a contract, and the contract says that the purchase price is, well, let's say 121,000 lei. And then few years later, the apartment is sold for 16,000 euros, which is twice as much, even more, I think. And then there would have been a profit with these figures. And then you came and said, no, there wasn't a profit because it wasn't bought for this 121,000 lei, but for 20,000 euros. I don't understand this, because in your NIA declaration, you mentioned the price of the value of the apartment, 121. Could you please explain this again?
Așa cum ați afirmat,
As you have
tranzacția a avut loc
stated,
în
the
2008.
transaction has taken place in
Eu eram
2008.
student,
I
aveam
was a
19 ani.
student at that time. I
Semestrul
was
2 la
19 years
facultate.
old
Asta a fost
in
în
the
ianuarie
second
2008.
semester of the first year in January
Pe atunci am să
2008.
încep că
And
era
at
o
that time,
practică, să spunem
there
așa.
was such a
În contract
practice,
se
let me
indica
call it,
valoarea
that in the
cadastrală
contract you would
la
put down the
vânzarea bunurilor
cadastral
imobile. Era
value upon sale of real
obicei,
estate.
dar
It's not that it was a
așa s-a practicat și
habit
tot
or a
timpul în
custom, but
societate.
that's how
Așa era
things
cultura
used to be
juridică
done. It's
atunci.
like the legal culture of those
Acum,
years.
prețul de 121 de
So
mii de
the
lei care a fost indicat în
121,000
contract
lei
reprezintă
price
valoarea
in
lui
the contract,
cadastrală.
that
Ce
is the
înseamnă valoarea
cadastral
lui cadastrală?
value of
Este
the
un preț
asset.
indicat de
What
către
does it
serviciile
mean? It's the
cadastrale, de
price
către
established by
cadastru.
the cadastral services.
Așa ar
We have this
fi evaluat
cadastral
bunul respectiv.
entity. That's how
În practică,
they were
eu nu
assessing
știu
the value
dacă
of that asset.
cineva
Now,
își
in
permite,
practice,
își permite,
I'm
dar
not
va vinde
sure.
sau
I'm not
cineva
sure
va avea
anybody.
norocul
I
să
mean,
cumpere
I don't know if
apartamente
anybody
la
is ever
prețuri
as
cadastrale.
lucky
Deci
as to
prețurile
buy an
cadastrale
apartment
sunt
for a
mult mai
cadastral
mici
price, because
decât
cadastral
valoarea
prices
lui
are known
reală.
to be much smaller than the
Cum
actual
care au
value
fost,
of an
care au
apartment.
fost pașii?
Now,
Eu m-am
as for
dus
the
la
steps
notar,
that were
chemat de
undertaken, I
părinte,
went to a notary.
care era cu
My
vânzătorul,
parent, who was with the
reprezentantul
seller
vânzătorului, să
there,
spunem
invited
așa.
me there
Și
with
am
a
semnat
representative of the
contractul
seller.
respectiv.
And we signed that
Care a
contract.
fost rațiunea?
Now, what was
De
the
ce s-a
rationale
indicat
as to
valoarea cadastrală?
why the
Eu
cadastral
presupun
value
că
was put down
așa era
in the contract? I
atunci.
think that's how things used
Percepția
to be
și modul
done.
de
I mean, the perception, the
lucru,
way of
modul de
doing
operare
things, the
în
way
contractele
of
respective. Și
working
n-au
with
apărut
contracts
întrebări.
like
La
that.
mine
So
n-au
that's
apărut.
why
Cum să apară
I
întrebări?
had, well, no questions were raised, no issue
nu
was
aveam nici
raised. I had
studii
no
juridice
way
atunci.
to raise
Nu aveam
an
o
issue with
funcție
it. I did
publică.
not have
Anul
my
2008.
education
Dar
of law finished at that
m-a dus
time. I
capul,
didn't have
cum
a
se spune,
public,
să iau
I didn't hold a
înscrisă
public office, but I was smart
de
enough
la
to take a
reprezentantul
like a statement for the representative of the seller to have my back covered, so to speak. I mean, what if that apartment was sold already to some other person? Or what if there are some other issues with it and that the representative had no right to even sell that to us? What if there's something forged documentation there? So I asked for this sort of a statement. What if something turns out to be wrong? I want for the real price to be put down in this particular statement, I said, so that I could gain back that money and not just the cadastral value should something go wrong. So I have that statement right here. You can have a look at it. It's yellow. That particular piece of paper is yellow compared to the bottom part of it. But the Commission has claimed that there's no detailed data put down there. It's just at that time, with the education I had at that time, with my approach at that time, I mean, just not having asked for more data, but it only shows that this receipt or this sort of a statement isn't forged, and it just says what the representative of the seller stated, because it has been written by the representative of the seller. I'm ready to have it checked by experts. There's the signature, there's the handwriting of the person, so I don't think this would be a problem, as in, well, if one should claim that it has been forged. But if I may continue.
One moment, please. This document that you have over there, is that the same document we have in our file?
Exact.
Precisely, yes.
So
It's a copy,
The small upper, and what's behind it, the longer...
Însemnările mele deja acum.
Those are just my notes for the Commission that I was going to read up for
This
the
document
Commission.
is in our files, we saw it. Okay, please go on.
Da. Și el e datat cu data de
So the date is the 24th of January 2008. Even the date is there when the representative of the seller has received the money. Now, in 2021, I had sold that apartment. I had sold it for 16,000 euros. At that time, as per this statement, that apartment, we paid 20,000 euros for that apartment. So then the natural question is, where is there a capital gain? How did I enrich myself? I've only lost some money, so to speak, following the sale of this apartment, in fact. And on this note, I would like to make reference to the order of the Ministry of Finance number 40 of 21st of March 2018, sub-item 1, 2, 3, line 1, that the Commission also made reference to. Now, that order, in fact, provides that there can be exceptions when the price is not set up is not established in the agreement, that price can be established by certain contracts, so to speak. The fact that the price is not the same as the one in that contract is not an absolute rule, and that we should start off from the cadastral value. If I can evidence this, well, then the tax authorities should take this statement into account.
Go on this subject for a moment. You were 19 at the moment, then just starting your law studies, so you were not considered to be an expert at that moment. You have finished your law studies, you're a judge now, so you may be considered an expert now. And I would like to know your opinion, just an opinion. How do you look upon a declaration where a different value is mentioned than the real purchase price that has been? I mean, you motivate it by saying, well, it was a kind of tradition then, but do you think this tradition is correct?
Evident că nu este corectă și dacă
Certainly it is not correct. And if you pay attention to my other transactions over the years, you will see that they correspond to the actual real value down to every penny that I've reported in my asset declarations. When I became a professional of law, I acted since that moment on as a professional of law as well. Now, as for the first question that you've raised with regards to this matter, whether in my income declarations or with the NIA, whether I've reported it. Now, this matter, given that the contract was entered into in 2008, I was under the obligation, as per the law and as per the NIA regulation, to report the contractual value of that, so the value that was put down in the contract. Later, the law was amended in 2020 something, and the declarants had the obligation to indicate the contractual value, the actual amount paid, and the difference, if any. But for the 2008 contracts, this obligation did not exist. I did not have this obligation. What is more, I was not able to even physically introduce, there was no option, so to speak, there's a button when you were filling it out, or like a cell field, I did not have a place where I would have been able to introduce this sort of information.
So, in fact, the contractual price was not correct. You state that you bought it, or your father bought it for 20,000 euros. You acknowledge now that this is not the correct way of doing it, but it was a tradition during that time. And the other thing that puzzles me, you sold the house for 16,000 euros, as you stated, and you knew, again, as you stated, that it had cost 20,000 euros. Why on earth did you lose all that money on that apartment? What is the rationale daarvan?
Because in 2008, when I purchased the apartment, the prices were high because there were no new constructions. The immovable property wasn't so well developed, and that's why that apartment was purchased in a block which has the status of a dormitory, an old building with 16 stories, quite dirty, with poor windows. And at that time, it costed 20,000 euro. Now, currently, that apartment, I displayed it for sale in 2021, actually. And it stayed there for more than half a year, and I couldn't sell it because new apartments appeared in new blocks of buildings. And I don't know how many people are willing to buy apartments in an old building with a status of a dormitory. So I lost from that transaction, but I used it from 2008 to 2017 or 18. I used it.
So you took your loss in order to be able to buy a new apartment?
No, actually. That loss, or the sales price, was used to buy in that block where I live now, to buy a parking plot and a storage space.
And a storage space, yes, I've seen that. Are you aware that if the purchase price is not accepted as 20,000, but as 120,000 lei, and the sales price is 16,000 euros, in that case, I'm talking theoretically now, there would be a profit. Are you aware that in that case there would be capital gain tax to be paid?
If that statement is not interpreted or not considered as a document that proves the real price of the contract, yes, I agree with you.
On this topic, I don't have any more questions. Does anyone else have?
I think we can move on.
Thank you. Then we go back to the apartment 310 in the Hristo Botev Street in Chișinău. You have sold this apartment, and there is some uncertainty about an exemption from taxes over here because of the period that you have lived there. I'll tell you what the Commission has seen. The property title was registered on the 1st of August 2017, and then as a domicile address, this was registered in October 2019, so 2 years later. Can you explain how come?
I registered my domicile in that block of buildings, probably when the old ID expired, or something happened with my old ID card. I can't remember very well why I did another ID card in that year, in 2019. But for sure I didn't do that in 2019 in order to prove where I live.
You were a judge then. You graduated as a lawyer. You were a judge, so you knew the rules.
Da.
You state that you have lived there since September 2017. But we didn't see any utility bills like electricity bills and gas or whatever. How come?
On the contrary, I brought my explanations in the second round of questions. I don't know if I should make reference to the legal provisions, or should I first speak about the bills, the utility bills?
As you wish.
So I will make reference to Article 40 of the tax code, which says that exchange of the domicile doesn't happen. No, 40. So the loss of capital from exchange or sale or another form of transactioning of the main residence is not recognized for taxation purposes. The main residence is defined in Article 5 of the tax code, and it says that a main residence should meet the following conditions. It's a property of the taxpayer during at least 3 years, and here the documents prove that this property was mine for more than 3 years. It represents a domicile or residence of the taxpayer during the past 3 years before the sale. And now the tax code does not contain any notion of domicile or residence, but this is contained in a civil code. Article 38, and Article 39. Article 38, paragraph 2, says that usual residence proves close link and stable link of the physical entity with that place. And when establishing the usual residence, we take into account all the relevant elements. And I'm highlighting this, particularly duration and the regularity of presence of the person in that place, as well as the conditions and reasons for such presence. Paragraph 4, establishing the domicile is not happening. It's only happening when the person who changes the place and does that in order to have its usual residence there. And the proof of the intention results from the statement of the person done with the competent authority, with the authority competent to establish the domicile. And in lack of such statement, in absence of such statement, from any other factual circumstances. Article 39, before the contrary proof, domicile or the residence of temporary residence of the physical entity is presumed to be in the place indicated in its ID card. And I'm highlighting before the contrary is proved. And the lawmaker gives me the possibility to present the circumstances that proves to prove that. Although I haven't, since from 2017 to 2019, I didn't have a domicile in that apartment, I still lived there. And I did that by presenting the statement or the documents before the commission. So the bill from the 15th of September, which I mentioned, I was telling that I was buying food products in the neighboring shop. When I sold the apartment, I went to the administrator of the block of buildings in order for him to issue a statement in order for me to prove the period of time that I lived in that apartment. And I did receive that statement from that person. It's dated 19 July 2021. And I have that in original. I presented it to you in a copy version. And this statement or certificate proves that on that address, I had a permanent domicile, stable domicile, from 1st of August 2017. And the committee had doubts about that certificate because your argument that the association was established later on, or later than 2017. And my answer was that it's hard for me to believe that an administrator of an association of dwellers would forge documents for me. And I'm firmly convinced that the person who issued to me that certificate received all the documents, accounting documents, when that association was established. The old documents which can confirm that I did live there and I did pay for the utilities. And we shouldn't forget that the members of such association, the administrator, the council of administrators, they're neighbors, and they know very well who has moved when in specific apartments. That's just one part. But I also presented some other documents because the commission asked me to present contracts for electricity. And I explained there that in all new blocks of buildings, including the block where I moved and I'm living for 3 years there, the agreements, the contracts with the energy provider are not signed immediately. First, the association of owners should be created. So we were paying per the counter of the construction company, building company. So we were receiving the bill and we were paying for the utilities, water, electricity and sewerage. And I presented again a note showing that I paid €200 for 18 months for the servicing of the building. This is how it happens with construction companies which have blocks of buildings. Regarding the gas provider, in November 2017, I concluded the agreement. So in the autumn of 2017, I suggested to the Commission to check on the bank excerpts for the payment of the gas services from 2017 to 2018, particularly for the winter period, because I'm sure, given the fact that I lived there, the apartment was heated and there was consumption of gas, of course, there. And it's one thing when somebody doesn't live there and doesn't heat the apartment, and it's another thing when somebody lives there and, of course, there is an increased bill for the gas consumption. I think the Commission has the bank account excerpts, and also presented a bill for the internet services. And the most relevant aspect that I found, and I'm very happy I found in the photos, I presented 3 photos. December 24, 2017,
24 decembrie 2000.
24 of December 2018 and 21 of December 2019 with a Christmas tree in the bedroom of that apartment. And I suggested to the Commission to click right on that properties and to see when those photos were made, for you to see that they haven't been done now, or they have been done at that time. What could be more concluding than those photos? It's hard for me to believe that there are people who put a Christmas tree in their apartment and they don't live there in those apartments as a main residence.
Thank you, Mrs. Stratan. You have answered another question already. That is, were you aware that this Association of Homeowners was founded in 2019, but you gave an explanation to that. Again, I ask my colleagues if there are more questions.
Judge Stratan, earlier in your statements today, you said that you went and you confirmed that gas service began for your apartment. I believe you said in November of 2017. How did you determine that? Was there some document from the gas company that you were looking at?
I presented the agreement signed with them. Usually, if you sign an agreement with a gas company, there is an authorization that the apartment can be connected to the gas pipe.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vetter.
Well, despite the question whether or not you have been living there in this apartment and within which period, I understood that you sold the apartment for quite a measurable amount. I have read 60,000 euros, is it correct?
50 jumate, dacă nu mă greșesc eu.
50 something, 55,000.
And you did not pay the taxes for this. At a certain point, you have responded upon request of the Commission, I did not pay the taxes because I was not asked to do so. Can you explain this a bit more, or was it just the wrong translation?
I haven't explained in this sense. I haven't paid the taxes because I am exempted by law, because I lived more than 3 years. And I made a calculation. The apartment was sold in July 9, 2021, and going back, it means that the last time I had to move in that apartment in order to be exempted, to have 3 years of living there, on July 9, 2018. And during September, July 2018, I presented documents that I lived in that apartment. With regards to whether or not it was asked from me, I was asked in the round of questions whether or not I went to the tax inspectorate to declare that, to say that I didn't go to them because I was exempted. A person who thinks he shouldn't pay the taxes won't go to the tax inspectorate to say I shouldn't pay the taxes. But when a person doesn't commit a crime, and everyone knows a crime was committed, I won't go to the bodies, to the criminal bodies to say that I haven't committed that murder. That's why I haven't gone to I didn't go to the tax inspectorate to declare that.
Any other questions by
Mai sunt și alte.
Mr. Stratan, referring to your statement of the Association of the House Owners, you just told us that this statement was based on all the documents. Have you asked for these documents?
No,
because I didn't take the declaration now. If I took it now with a back date, I would commit a fake document, and maybe I would have asked for documents. But I didn't go there for more than 3 years since I sold the apartment. I don't know even who is the head of that association. I don't even know if he lives still there. So that's why I didn't go to ask him. In general, I thought that since the Commission didn't ask for such documents, I didn't get such an idea to go there to ask them for documents. Since I presented them, and I thought that at least for the gas consumption during wintertime, the Commission does have such proofs, documents proving that.
Okay, but how do you know then that it's based on all the documents if you haven't spoken to them?
Pentru că dacă persoana ar
Because
semna
if a
o
person
declarație
signs a declaration, a
să aibă
statement,
careva
without
date
having some
concrete
data,
despre
specific
locatarul
data
respectiv,
about
el
that
ar comite un
owner,
fals. Și asta e
he would
infracțiune.
commit a fake document,
Mie
a
vine greu
false,
să
and
cred
that's
că pentru mine
a
ar
crime.
face
It's
cineva o
very
favoare
hard for me
sau ar fi
to
făcut în
believe that
2021
somebody did me a
cu ochii
favor,
închiși să semneze
back in 2021 to
declarații
sign with
false
closed
sau
eyes
fictive.
fictitious statements.
Just, okay, any other questions? If not, Judge Stratan, would you like to make a brief statement before we conclude the hearing? Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Declarații de final sau referitor la aspectul respectiv?
In final declarations or declarations regarding this aspect that we are discussing now?
Well, this is your opportunity before we conclude the hearing to say anything you would like to the Commission.
Nu m-am pregătit să fac o
I
declarație,
haven't
dar vreau
prepared
să
to make
spun că
any
este un
statement,
proces
but I would like to say
anevoios,
that this is a
foarte stresant,
burdensome process, very
pe locuri
stressful,
frustrant.
sometimes frustrating,
Îți dă multe bătăi de cap,
and it
trebuie
gives
să
you
te
lots of
gândești, să cauți
headaches. You
documente,
need
să
to
vorbești
think,
cu
to look for
rudele, cu unii
documents, to
să
speak
faci,
to
dacă ai vorbit de
relatives,
mult timp.
to reconciliate with many of the relatives
până la
if
urmă,
you
cred că
haven't
este un
been
proces
talking to them
necesar
for a long time. But
și asta
in
e
the end, I
situația.
think that's a necessary process, and that's it.
Well, thank you. That brings us to the end of the hearing. And Judge Stratan, thank you again for your submissions to the Commission and answers to its questions, including your answers today. The Commission will, after the hearing, approve an evaluation report stating its conclusion, whether the subject meets the criteria for ethical and financial integrity under law number 65. The Commission will strive to complete and approve its evaluation report and announce its conclusion as soon as possible. This hearing is now closed, and the Commission will adjourn until our next scheduled hearing later this morning. Thank you, everyone. O zi bună.
Zi bună.